Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and yesterday we left off with Rogue on our Scholomance Academy review series, and today we will continue with Shaman. Again, we were rating on a 5-star basis, 5 stars being a god tier card, being in every single deck, 1 star being a piece of garbage you wouldn't even want to take in arena, and again, we're reviewing both standard and wild, so you get a perspective on what cards will be good in either format or in either, depending. So let's get going. First, we have Rune Dagger. It's a 2-mana 1/3 dagger. It's like Spirit Claws. Let's see what it does, though. After your hero attacks, gain spell damage +1 this turn. So it's only on this turn. It doesn't stack. It seems to be just... I don't know what you're doing with this. Like, you can save it for your some of the other cards in here, like Molten Blast and the big AoE, but it's just not worth it. And it's a 1-attack weapon. It can't really buff. It doesn't kill. It just seems awful. This card just seems terrible. I'm giving it a 1 in standard and wild. I don't know what you're doing with this. It just seems bad. Next, we have Molten Blast, 3-mana spell. Deal 2 damage, summon that many 1/1 elementals. So I guess the idea is you play Rune Dagger and you attack and then you Molten Blast for 3 and get 3 1/1 elementals. And you have a mediocre implosion for 3. I just don't feel that this makes that weapon worth it. And I don't think this card's okay. You really have to have spell damage to make it worth it, right? Because it scales with that. But again, I don't particularly see it. Again, it's an okay card. He has spell damage totem. It's not bad. You can run some other spell damage cards to make this good. I just don't think like something like Rune Dagger isn't really going to push it. I'll give it a 2. It's not a bad card by any means, but I don't think it makes the cut in standard. In wild, I have no idea what you're putting this in. I guess an odd shaman, because you always get the spell damage totem. You could give it a thought, so... I still don't think it makes the cut there, but I'll give it a 2. It has a potential there. Next, we have Tidal Wave. It's an 8-mana AoE, has lifesteal, and deal 3 damage to all minions. This card's sick. I love this card. I want to see what the animation looks like, because I have a feeling it's going to be very refreshing. It's Tidal Wave. It's got to be refreshing, and that is a lot of healing on one spell. That is a ton. If it hits, like, just 3 things, that's 9 healing plus crazy. The issue is, it's 8 mana, and it only does 3, but if you scale it with any spell damage, like Rune Dagger, which is crap, it's crazy. I can't write this card off. I really can't. Everyone keeps telling me it's too slow, it's not good enough, but it's slow, but the payoff is so huge. You can basically Reno with this. You can Reno, because it hits your minions too, it heals. I just feel like it's got to be powerful enough to see play. So I'm going to give it a 3 in standard. And even in like Shutterwalk, you might consider it. The AoEs aren't fantastic. You have like Volcano, you have Hag of the Scheme, you have Earthquake. But I don't know. This card just, it's too rad. I can't not give it a 3 in standard wild. I love the card. I'm sad it probably won't see play, but my bias is going to take over. I'm going to give it a 3. Next, we have Trip Totem. I shake my head at this in Mage, and I said it was probably not going to be good enough. And in Shaman, we have this 2-mana 0/3 totem. At the end of your spell, end of your turn, cast a random spell that costs 3 or less. The average 3-cost spell is probably beneficial, which means you're running this card in Shaman, especially like even Shaman and Wild. Why wouldn't you? It's a totem. Your deck is built around totem synergies. You can high roll with this card. Why wouldn't you play it? In Standard, where you have totem, Shaman, and all of that, I'm going to give this a 3. I think it'll be playable in that deck. I don't think that deck's going to be that powerful, but you never know. There's some support with it, but definitely a ladder playable card. And in Wild, I'm going to give it a 4, because why wouldn't you play this in even Shaman? You have another 2-drop totem that you can high roll with, and you have all these other synergies. You have Think from Below, you have all the 0-mana spells, you have all that stuff that works with it. You're going to put this into even Shaman, and it's going to be tilting to your opponent when you get the perfect random 3-cost spell or less. So, yeah, really powerful card, and it's the worst kind of design. I hate the design. I really do. But I can't rate it low because I don't like it. It's going to be a good card, and I just wish they wouldn't make cards like this. I think they're toxic. Next, we have Primordial Studies. It's a 1-mana spell. Discover a spell damage minion. Your next one costs less. There's good spell damage minions out there, but I don't really think you want to run this as a card. I don't think it takes a spot in any deck. Spell damage synergies just aren't there for me, and getting a minion for a bit cheaper, I'm not sold on it. It's an okay value card, but I don't think you want to hard run this. So in Standard and Wild, I'm just going to give it a 2 across the board. I don't really see it. Next, we have Speaker Gydra. It's a 3-mana 1/4 Rush Wind Fury minion, and Spell Burst, gain attack and health equal to the spell's cost. So yeah, you could play this with like a 2-mana spell. You get a pretty good body with Wind Fury and all that. I've had people keep telling me they think it's pretty good. I just don't see it. I don't see why you're spending a bunch of mana, because even that play, that's a 5-mana play. it's just the payoff's not worth it. It's not winning you the game. It's giving you like a batter head, which has never been good enough. But you get a little bit. I don't see it. I don't see it. It's a good card, but I don't know how it's gonna fit anywhere. I'm gonna give it a 2 in Standard and Wild. Next, we have Instructor Fireheart, new Shaman Legendary. 3 mana, 3/3 Battlecry. Discover a spell that costs 1 or more. If you play this turn, repeat this effect. So you could infinitely chain Fireball, or not Fireballs, Lightning Bolts if you have that 2 mana, 2/3 that discounts discovered spells by 1. But the likelihood of that's pretty low, but you can do some pretty degenerate stuff if you go off with Lightning Bloom and repeat a lot of stuff. You can do that, and I mean, it's a 3 mana, 3/3 discover spell with some mana cheat. You're gonna throw this in your deck. It's good value, and you can maybe possibly abuse it and stuff like that. It's just very good. So I'm gonna give it a 4 in Standard. In Wild, I might consider running this in like a Shudderwock Shaman, Control Shaman, like a Greedy Quest Shaman. Certainly could see play there. So I'm gonna give it 3 in Wild as well. It's a good card for sure. Next, we have Rune Carvings, 6 mana, choose 1 spell. You either summon 4 2/2 Treant Totems, or you overload and give them Rush. So even Shaman can run this, and that's pretty relevant. They typically curve out at 4 all the cards that cost mana that you don't try and cheat out, like Think From Below or Sea Giant. They cost 4 or less, so this is 6, but it just gives you a good like load on the board. And if you're sitting on a couple 0 mana like Shaman spells, right, the totem spells, you can just dump them on this, and that's very powerful. I think it could fit into even Shaman and Wild, so I'll give it a 3 there. In Standard, I don't see what you're playing this in. I guess you could put it into Totem Shaman in Standard, but I feel that deck is so low curve, even more so than even Shaman and Wild. I don't know, but maybe the curve's going to be going up with the Totem Goliath card we'll talk about, so I'll give it a 3 for the fringe possibility that it does pop into that Totem deck, but I'm not entirely sure. But overall, I think it'll see play in both Standard and Wild to an extent. Next, we have Groundskeeper, 4 mana, 4/5 Taunt. Battlecry, if you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, restore 5 health. There's not a ton of expensive Shaman spells in Standard to make this work. You have Earthquake, you have the new AoE we just talked about, but I don't see what deck or what support is really there to make this work. I feel like Shaman's going to be in Standard kind of a totem-based aggro-ish type deck, and any long game plan, they don't have a win con, and I don't think, like, the card's good, but I just don't see a home for it. So despite the card being really good, I'm going to give it a 2 because I don't think it's going to see play on ladder. And in Wild, yeah, same deal. I'll give it a 2 there. Even Shudderwock Shaman, I don't see you putting in that in there because, again, you don't have a lot of 5s. You'll run Scheme, you'll run, like, Earthquake maybe, but, again, it's not a ton of stuff. Next, we have Razfrost Whisper, 5 mana, 3/6. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemies, improved by spell damage. So, in Standard, I just feel like that Control Shaman deck, there's no archetype for it. There's no win condition for that deck right now. So I don't think you throw this into, like, Totem Shaman or anything like that. Like, this is a really good card. It has a recurring effect. It's powerful. I just don't know where it goes. But the card, I feel, is so good that I'm still going to give it a 3. Unlike Groundskeeper, where I don't see it seeing play. I feel like this card's so good that you might just throw it in something anyway. So I'll go with that. In Wild, Shudderwock Shaman probably gives this a go. Odd Shaman, which is getting stuff. It actually is getting stuff, and the deck is not as bad as you think. It's really good because that whole deck is built around your spell damage totem and spell damage synergy. That's usually what the deck's built around, and this just plays right into it. And you get this on 5 with just a couple of spell damages up. Holy crap, is that good? So I am going to give this a 3 as well in Wild. I think it'll see play in that deck. Speaking of seeing play in Wild and Odd Shaman, we have Totem Goliath. It's a 5 mana 4/5. Death Rattle, summon all 4 basic totems, overload 2. So, in Standard, I don't think it's too slow for Totem Shaman. It's a lot of stats. It's a 4/5 and you get 4 bodies off of it. And it's not like the Spellburst Mana Worm card where you have to cast a spell. You get the totems. And yes, you overload for 2, but you have a lot of synergies. You have the 3 mana copy spell. You can still play after this. You have the 0 mana buffing spells and all of that. And that deck, again, is not that far off, and it might help push it over the top. So I'm going to give it a 3 in Standard. And in Wild, again, Odd Shaman, I think, would love to run this. It's more totems, and you can just dump it. So I'm going to give it a 3 in Wild as well. I think, overall, pretty solid. Next, we have Devolving Missiles. Shoot 3 missiles at random enemy minions that transform them into ones that cost 1 less. Alright, Standard, you might run it. I mean, there's a lot of buff stuff and stuff you want to silence in the meta, and I feel like for Mage, I felt like it's not that playable because you have better stuff to do, better stuff to cheat out. But in Shaman, you might run it as a one-of potentially, especially in like an Evolve or in Totem Shaman, maybe. It's fringe. I'm gonna give it a 3 in Standard. In Wild, I don't know what you're playing this in. Even Odd Shaman wouldn't run this. I don't think you're never running it in Shudderwalk or anything like that. You have Devolve, which is just better, and even Shaman can't run this obviously. So in Wild, I'll give it a 2. Then we have Lightning Bloom, a 0 mana spell, gain 2 mana crystals this turn only, overload 2. I gave this, I believe, a 5 in Druid. It's a 5 in Shaman too. It's just ridiculous. Like, the things you can cheat out with Kael'thas. Kael'thas enables so much dumb stuff. Like, you can Lightning Bloom, Lightning Tomb, Eye of the... Get the 10 mana spell out there, and you win the game because you have all these giant taunts early, and no one can answer that. And again, you have synergies with, like, Instructor Fireheart, and just anytime you can cheat out stuff early, like this, even with the overload stuff, is just insane. And in Wild, you can even run stuff to negate the overload. There's multiple cards that take overload away if you're really worried about it. So yeah, Standard, I'm giving it a 5. In Wild, you can run as an even Shaman, just play a 7/7 on turn 1. There's so much potential for this card across the board. It's so busted. It's just so busted. I'm giving it a 5 in Wild too. It's just crazy good. Last, we have Diligent Note Taker. 2 mana, 2/3 spell burst. Return the spell to your hand. I mean, really good with Lightning Bloom. You play Diligent Note Taker, Lightning Bloom. You can get another Lightning Bloom. Play that. You cheat out 4 mana that turn. You overload for 4. That's pretty brutal. But if you're doing something really high roll, you don't really care. So, yeah. Solid card. Premium statted. Good value. I'm going to give it a 4 in Standard. And in Wild, you can run an even Shaman. And I think you do. Because you have the 0 mana totem buffs and all that stuff. And that value is just really nice. So, I'll give it a 3 in Wild. And that is all the Shaman cards. Shaman's getting some really good stuff, and it'll impact both Standard and Wild quite a bit. Shaman is basically a dead meme in Standard now, and I'm not sure if this puts it over the top, but Lightning Bloom alone, I think, has a very good chance of elevating Shaman to be a very playable class. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Love to hear what you have to say. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll hit you up with another review very shortly, so make sure you get those notifications ready so you can keep updated. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.